So you're going to provide me with water, huh?
I can, absolutely.
That would be
Just
nice.
got a new Berkey water filter.
Well, I just would want something to keep wet, that's all.
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
Okay, are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
Oh.
Today's podcast is brought to you by self-deception. The letter S.
Self-deceit.
Self-deceit. Idealization. Self-idealization. Projecting what you should be outward and not realizing what you actually are.
You mean what the physiologists and neuroscientists would say is 80% creation and 20% real perception in every perception. Every percept is made of 80% creation.
So it's not real.
What it is the fundamental principle in phenomenology, which is what? Intentionality. Intentionality. Think of anything that's more important. Intentionality is the entire course, the river that runs from every perception to the other. And so you're correct. I think so many people lash out and whip at the world because it's easier for them to do that to the world than to themselves. They're profoundly dissatisfied, you could say. But it doesn't even matter. I don't know if you have to do such deep psychoanalysis. The most important thing is to see the fact that you are a river of desire. And the Buddha was right. And whether people want to accept that or not. And if you look into the teachings of all the great mystics and all the great saints, you're going to find the same thing. That the self is virtually a non-substantial being. Even for the Christian saints, the soul is just reduced to nothing but receptivity. It's feminine. All souls are feminine according to Christian theology. And Christ is the soul is the bride of the Christ, and yet Christ is not considered in terms of like penile aggression by any stretch. Christ is a pure idea, pure acceptance, and pure love. If anybody knows anything about Christian theology, Christ's fundamental message is love, and that implies that everybody is connected to everybody else in a very profound way. That's not taught much in the church. The ones that I heard teach it, they were young guys, young priests. I heard them back in the 70s, early 70s. And one would get up and talk about, I bring you the good news, and he would talk about Christ consciousness within. No, gone. Not around very long. Somewhere where he's teaching polar bears.
He's on a stake, maybe. Lit on fire.
In the old days.
Right.
In the old days, because the whole point was to make an infinity between the individual and God.
As something to attain. Is it to attain the acceptance of the authority? Is that what it does?
Oh, the authority would always do everything to maintain its authority, its own power. Power will always try to create more of its power, especially since it's all built on a trapdoor of nothingness, and they somehow know that, but they don't. They think that they can continue the edifice in the dream, and they have for a long time. That's why a lot of people consider the whole thing to be corrupt, because it's all egoic. It's all built on separativeness. If they would teach what some people would say was what that Nazarene was really saying, they'd be getting, as Elaine Pagels has pointed out, you'd be getting Zen Buddhism. You'd be getting Taoism. You'd get all this because that entire tradition was profoundly influenced by those fundamental ideas that he expressed. And where did they come from? Apparently, unless he was a crazy man or a fraud, they came from cosmic experiences.
So let's go into the details of this. It I suppose one place to start could be one of the most fundamental desires of the egoic self is to end suffering. It's the desire to end suffering.
To escape it.
To escape suffering.
Yeah, sure.
And one of the first things that I can remember that the Buddha said from the things that I've read is that life is suffering. So the statement is everything is suffering. The whole process of living is also a process of suffering. And so it's inescapable that if you are alive, you are suffering.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
And so you will therefore always be in that endless loop of overcoming suffering.
So what was his does he have a remedy?
Would it not be to accept suffering?
Part of it, I suppose, but is there no real discipline involved?
Yeah, go further into that.
Well, great monasteries were built as a result of the Buddha.
Mm.
You go through Tibet, many were destroyed by the Chinese. Some still exist, I guess, and there are others in other places. The tradition of Buddhism is widespread. There's plenty of Buddhism in the world, plenty of Buddhists, and they will express it in one way or another. It's divided up in certain ways, but basically Buddhism is all about waking up, and it doesn't mean that you don't feel pain. Buddha died from eating poison mushrooms, and it took him a long time. You get to see everybody. They came to see him when they heard, and they traveled by foot all over India to get there, and so he got to see a lot of his people before he died. So he had to be suffering. I mean, that's not a nice way to go, poisoned. And then he apparently went into the void. Now, what does that mean? We don't understand that. People think, oh, he stopped existing. Well, he stopped existing as a form, but he went back to what he always was is what? One consciousness. Eckhart Tolle gratified me recently. I watched a short YouTube thing on Eckhart Tolle. It was basically saying a lot of what Krishnamurti said. But he talked about the one consciousness. He talked about animals participating. We're all part of one consciousness. And I do respect that. I was glad to hear him say that. Because I think that there is only one consciousness as well. It's like there's only one space. And then there are multitudes of entities in the space, of all kinds. But there's still only one space, and that space pervades everything. That's where the pure light of the void is, and but my word, that's accessible right here now, all the time. In terms of acknowledging it, and I think that some people understand that by finding some kind of direct relationship to it in a more honest way, the most honest way that they can actually influence it. They can curry favor with it. I don't think they should expect it, but that they might get evidence of it. And they say, wow, look at this. Look at the wow, I didn't realize. You know what I mean?
Like a miraculous moment.
I would not ever call anything miraculous except one thing, as far as I'm concerned. But everything else can be categorized as magic. That's the manipulation of conditions. That's magic. The miraculous, to me, is the conversion of the heart. And you can say I sound like some kind of somebody stuck about the heart chakra. I think I know this. I'm positive of this. No matter what you learn, no matter what you achieve, no matter what, if you don't know love in the truest, deepest sense, where your heart expands and embraces the other as the same, if you don't have that experience, I think that you still have a place somewhere to go. Because
you're within a certain objective relationship.
I don't want to call it objective because it implies an object. No, I don't want it to even have an idea. I want it to be an interflow. It's like
Right, that's what I mean.
like-
If you're separate, you are treating another as an object and not fully embracing another as self.
You know how hard it is. We talked about this from an existential point of view. All the world is care, said Heidegger. The authentic is beyond care, but that's another issue. But how's the world care? Well, self-care. It's all about the vulnerability of the self. I mean, this is so obvious. If a person doesn't understand this, we're creatures unto death, and we know it after a while. Especially, on graduation night or prom night when a couple of kids get killed in a car accident. All the rest of the kids in the school freak out. They may not have even known them. Why do they freak out? Because that's their mortality.
Right.
And so at some point you know that, and then there's all the rest of the stuff, the pressures, the demands, the frustrations, the unrequited desires, all that stuff that goes into growing up in a society. And then you realize that you're lost. You have no idea what this is all about. You have no idea what's right and wrong. All you can do is want for yourself, and you try to protect yourself and project yourself and get your desires, and you have no understanding of this because you've never done any philosophy. Nobody's ever taught you anything. They teach you all kinds of stuff, but they don't teach you how to really evaluate yourself in the most gentle way and yet introspect, like without bullshit way. And you're just
authentically.
The fact is, kids learn to lie early to protect the self. They learn to lie very, very early. In their 2s and 3s, they'll start to be lying. Yeah, early on. I mean, the researchers show it. They start to deny bad stuff. No, I didn't do it. That's like the dog or the cat. Nope, it wasn't me. So it develops into lying, and some people lie so much that they actually believe the stuff that they tell. And I could tell stories about people who tell me things.
Thus, self-deception, the original.
The self-deceit is all part of the self-protectiveness.
It's like a shield.
Yeah. So you deceive the other, but in doing so, you're even deceiving yourself in terms of your self-worth. It's as if the relationship with the other has so much influence on your sense of self-worth. And you've got to somehow feel that you deceive the other and deceive yourself in the same way. So you present yourself in your self-idealized way as best you can. And you can actually believe that that's who you really are until maybe you're all alone.
Right. Not getting the reinforced.
So the whole world is like a function of instruments.
Right.
That's basically what every perception carries, a sense of instrumentality. You see the clouds. I don't like the clouds. They mean the coming storm. Therefore, there's a negative perception. You see the trees. The trees are beautiful. They function for me to appeal to my sense of aesthetics. You know what I mean? There's always going to be some things are obvious, but it's always there. You look at the two women. One is very attractive. The other is not attractive. They're both functions, right? They function for the sake of all kinds of things, including comparisons, and a function of your desire. Nope, I don't want that. That's an instrument that's tossed aside. And that one, oh yes, I would like to use that one. For what? Well, my own pleasures, my own self-esteem, my own need to give love. There's that too. And I hope that's there. That's real. Because if you don't give love, you're going to just explode. You see. What happens is you crack all over, all the cracks in the body. So the world of instrumentality and the world of self-deceit go together. I mean, you can do all kinds of things with this. This is existential psychology, excellent psychology. It's always at the foundation of stuff. From Kierkegaard, Dostoevsky, they're genius expressions of existential individual psyches, of what goes on in the psyche.
So what does one do when they find themselves so separate in nature. They find that they're idealizing themselves, and that they have come to understand that it will benefit them to live more authentically. What could one do to be more authentic immediately in the moment, and to be more mindful and in practice of that authenticity?
What is it to be authentic? You just described it. And I think for some people it's easier than for others. I think that if you've been knocked back on your heels and you've learned to look at the world in a negative way, no support out there, no trust, no foundation, you're unbalanced like that. Problem with trust right there, and it's like the world smacked you in the face. It's going to happen to kids. The world by its nature is going to make us neurotic, according to Arthur Janoff. Said we're all neurotic. We never get it all fulfilled. We always get frustrated. So everybody turns twisted, and you get fixated, and you get stuck at a certain level. And so the anger that sometimes I've seen people go screaming, raving mad over some misfortune, not even the worst, just a stolen car or something, and banging heads against the wall and things like that, when you know that that's really not the kind of person that you're really going to have a rational relationship with. If you can stay level-headed with it in the sense of just observing and watch yourself be selfish, watch yourself be concerned about the self, watch yourself be hidden. If I say this to somebody who has social anxiety or something like that, observe yourself, and it's okay, and it would be great for a person or people with various social issues to get together in a circle, to me, and to have moments of authenticity.
Meaning describe the difficulties that they're having, or
however they want to express. If they have social anxiety, I'm no expert on this, but I understand about human consciousness. And if they've got this experience, then it produces even more of an intensification of separation. So if they can tough it out and sit with a bunch of people, like, getting thrown into the pool, I'm so scared, I'm with people, and then you have somebody who can turn it into laughter, that's where I come in, because I do comedy.
So essentially, you could take the thing that you're afraid of and gradually expose yourself to that.
You can deal with it in different ways, I guess. My way would just be to start to look at some things and not judge them harshly, but just to observe them, maybe make fun of them. And that's really kind of an easy thing to do, because we're such I don't want to call us humorous creatures, but we are ludicrous. I think that's the correct word. That's the right word. Ludicrous creatures.